and welcome to Gaming the System. And we are doing a deep dive today into Horizon Zero Dawn, which is obviously the previous game to the current version, which is Horizon... Matt?
Forbidden
West.
Alex? Yes, there we go.
Yeah.
Oh, we should have rehearsed that one, shouldn't we?
Horizon Forbidden? Yes.
And there we go. So that nicely introduced us. So we've got me, Jem, and then Matt and Alex, and we're all playing it at the moment. We're all in different stages of the game right now. So I've just recently picked it up. Matt is doing a replay, and Alex had got...
I'm probably about 60-70%. I've just done Maker's End, so I don't know where that is. But at that point of the game, yes.
So we've talked a bit about this because obviously I don't want spoilers. So we're talking about like, how do we discuss this without kind of giving spoilers away? So we're going to try and do that and work around that. But I don't mind a few hints and tips. I don't mind that. Just no, I don't want to learn any major story plot bits.
I was thinking I like spoilers are the worst thing ever, so I won't say anything that I won't take any risks. So I'll try and be as say as little while saying as much as I can.
It's so hard though. It's always really difficult to know what you know, and also like when I'm most of the way through a game, remembering what I didn't know back at the start is always quite difficult. So yeah, but I'm also really good that I forget a lot of things. So even if you do say something now, I'll probably have forgotten it by the time I get there. So
it's quite a skill.
Yeah. It's a useful skill sometimes. So I haven't got any questions or anything. So I think we're just going to do a general chat. But I was quite interested to know why you picked it back up again, Matt. Was it just in readiness for the new game?
It was literally because I got Dying Light 2, which came out at the start of the month, the start of February, and I powered my way through that. It was actually quite a disappointment, unfortunately. And then I got Call of Duty Vanguard, and I played through that and are still playing that. And then I got Elden Ring, which came out on the 23rd or the 25th, and I dipped my toe in that. But I'm going to come back to that at some point in the far future, because that requires, you really need to devote a lot of time, and you need to be in a certain headspace for that. And in this, I had this sort of 5-day period between when I knew Horizon. Well, it was my birthday on the 27th, and I got Horizon Zero Dawn for my birthday, which was a few days after it actually came out. So I had about a 5-day window going, I know that on the 27th, the starter's pistol is going to go, and I'm finally going to start running through Horizon Forbidden West. So I thought, I'll take a look just to remember how good did this actually look. I wasn't really planning to play it again, but then I got started, and then I just kept on going, and then just a bit more, and seeing it with completely new eyes. I'm a completely different person to who I was 5 years ago when I first played it. So I appreciated it in a completely new way. And I went through all of it and just played every mission and all of it, and just went, that was so much better than I originally gave it credit for. Particularly the writing. I was very impressed with the writing. And yeah, the gameplay, you just think, how is this possible? None of this should be possible. And went all the way through that, and then thought, I'll hop straight into Horizon Forbidden West, and I'll try and, this is an interesting metaphor. Do any of you read Dan Brown books?
No, but I know of them.
I know of them.
I watched the film.
Yeah, so basically what Dan Brown books do is they have one chapter that's at the very start, which is the sort of, in like Da Vinci Code, it's the art director running through the Louvre, trying to and then being killed, and then the rest of the Da Vinci Code is about that. Horizon Zero Dawn is that one chapter right at the front. Horizon Forbidden West is
all the rest of it. Oh wow!
Okay.
It'll make you go, holy fuck! It's a prologue. It's a prologue.
It doesn't feel like a prologue.
I know, and it'll just I have experienced wonderment, the likes of which I haven't experienced in a game before. You will just sit back and go, in transcendence. That's been my quite a over the last week or so.
Wow, that's
you've got
high praise.
It really is one of the best games I've ever played.
Yeah.
Sitting here with a sober eye, it is one of the best games I've ever played.
Mm-hmm.
How about you, Alex? You took a break, didn't you?
I did. I can't remember when I stopped playing it, but I started playing it obviously when it first came out, which was I don't know how many years ago now. And then I got to
17, I think.
I think so, yeah. Got to a point where obviously another different game had come out, and I had been preoccupied with that and just left Horizon Zero Dawn behind. And then it gets to the point where you forget all the controls and they're different to the way you've been playing recently, and so sadly it sat unfinished for many years until now, when I realised obviously we had a date for the sequel and it's coming out soon and I probably want to buy it, so I should really jump back in and finish the story because I haven't, and that's what led me to pick it up again. And I was also encouraged to do so because Matt had mentioned that he was playing again and you mentioned that you wanted to have a go, so I thought, yes, I will finish it since everyone else is. And yeah, so I picked it up a little bit over the week before last, and have progressed by a mission and a half. At that stage where it's quite tricky and there's lots of very difficult bosses in my way. So I'm kind of trying to grind through at the moment, but I feel like I could probably find some better equipment or some better armour or outfits to wear, but I still haven't fully re-familiarised myself with things like crafting and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, I picked it up, well, because you two were talking about it, and because I'd seen because we've talked about it in Gaming the System as well, because of Aloy, but what I was really interested in is how I had completely not clocked it the first time round. You know, when it came out, I think partly that's because my love of gaming has been rekindled through Gaming the System, and we obviously weren't doing this then. So, but even so, I'm surprised that I hadn't. That even though we've talked about it, that I hadn't gone, because when I looked at it, I just thought, oh my gosh, this is so up my street, and it's such a good game. And as I've kind of started playing it, I've just been so inspired by it and so enthused by it. It's a very well put together game, and the game mechanics. I mean, I'm playing the PC version, and I understand that they've done some tweaks to it. So there were some changes. Apparently, there were some issues with shooting arrows and things like that they've fixed or that they've made better in the game. But I think it's just it's a really nice mix of combat and tactics, and I think that's what I like. I'm a bit bored of games where you just run in and you just mash buttons and it doesn't really matter where you stand, it doesn't really matter what you do or what you use. there's maybe a few fights where that matters, but the vast majority is just rubbish. Whereas for me at the moment, I'm finding that every single encounter I have, of which there are many, as I'm running around, it requires me to think about where I'm standing, what I'm doing. And there's other fights where they are deliberately more challenging. Like, I wouldn't say they were boss fights, but they're sort of mini boss fights or sort of part of the story in some way, and they require thinking about do I put a trap over here, or should I jump behind that rock, or can I hide in that, and where there's a whole set of, and it really reminds me, I think I've talked to you guys about a game called Thief, which I adored back in the day, and that was similar in that you could completely play the whole game just sneaking around and not you actually would probably just die if you tried to run in and just beat things up, so that was never an option.
Yeah, I think one of the things I like so much about the combat is it does force you to actually think about what is my best strategy for taking down this creature, because they all have different strengths and weaknesses as well. So the clues are all there. It's more like a puzzle. The combat is more like a puzzle than other games I've played, definitely, because it's saying to you, here's the strengths and weaknesses, and then what have you got in your arsenal that can exploit those weaknesses. So yeah, it does make you think, definitely.
Yeah, it's such an elegant combat system, because it takes from the smallest creature to the largest one. It makes you think there's a strategy, there's design, there's a reason this is powerful, because it's got this, and this, and this. You're dying really quickly because this component is very powerful, and so that's your first thing. Knock that bit off. And it really makes you feel powerful. It makes you feel really triumphant when you've taken a massive Thunderjaw and you've chipped away at it. But not just, like, I know what you mean. Like, normally it's just you run up, you hit something, you run away, you run up, you hit it, you run away. This, I noticed for the first time, I killed a storm wing, one of the massive flying ones.
I hate them. Yeah.
And by the time, if you're playing it correctly, by the time you're finished, it actually looks like a wreck. It looks like you've destroyed it, whereas normal enemies, you just hit them 100 times and then they fall over and that's it.
Yeah.
This, you chip off the thrusters and the chest beam, and you're ripping shreds of armor off of it. Yeah. And it just gets better with the sequel.
So I had a look before this about I just did a search for feminism and Horizon Zero Dawn, and one of the things that came up was an article in the Guardian in 2017 where they said that Horizon Dawn is the feminist action game we've been waiting for. And Matt, you said that you had some thoughts on that, so do you want to share those with us?
Yes, so you talk there. So representation is important. Surface level representation is important, as it is, but you only get so many brownie points for the degree of representation that you show. So you've got a young girl as this powerful, awesome savior, chosen one, and it's just awesome and brilliant and amazing, excellent, well done, brownie points. But then when someone says the feminist game that we've all been waiting for, is how low in ambition is your feminism to think that this, because she is white, she is skinny, she is pretty, has this flabbergastingly perfectly no underarm hair, no leg hair, and the entire raised in the wilderness by a man on the outskirts of a society that is led by women. No mention of pregnancy or periods, not once. And you think, yes, feminist hero. And you think, she's that having those things. That's where you're groundbreaking. It's why Christopher Nolan and his new bastard. His new films. I'm going to do a film about Oppenheimer and developing the bomb. Here's the list of the cast, and it's middle-aged white man, the greatest the middle-aged white man, after and after and after. And I think, he's so groundbreaking. I think this is the most groundbreaking thing ever, but in the ways that really would be breaking new ground, they just fall flat, and that's okay. It's okay to not get it completely right. But if you go, we've got a female protagonist, we get all the brownie points. No, you don't get all the brownie points. You get a few brownie points. The Last of Us Part 2, that's how you get brownie points, with having a really big, muscular, things you've never seen before. That would be, if they just made Aloy a very dark-skinned black girl, that would have that is groundbreaking, and it's as simple as changing the skin color, but they chose not to do that.
It is interesting because there is a lot of representation in the game as a whole, and I think that there's a sort of equal spread of various sort of racial backgrounds, and I think that's quite interesting. And I think, as you say, why did they choose to make Aloy white? She does have red hair though, so but then a lot of do you think that that's just falling into that sort of fiery?
Yes, very much. Trope? It's very much a trope, isn't it? I think, or at least in my experience of seeing any red-haired women in film or television, they're always quite fiery and independent and sort of dominant characters.
It's because they stand out. It's like the most distinctive colour hair someone could have to make them stand out. So again, I don't think they get any. You don't get brownie points for that.
No,
it's a clever decision. But.
I did think that her outfits. I've been quite pleased with those, because I felt that she is skinny, and she's not as muscular as I think she would be for the skill set that she has. And I remember sort of very early on, there was a cut scene right at the start, and I was thinking her arms do look like at least toned, and that's a step in the right direction. I totally agree with what you're saying, Matt. But I was pleased to see that her outfits don't seem to be aimed at accentuating her chest or her legs. There does seem to be. I know there's quite a lot of midriff bearing that goes on, but it's there isn't that sort of honing in on the
it's not so overt, is it?
DNA. Yeah.
I just really like the aesthetics and the stylized nature of when you're in cutscenes. I just can't take my eyes off the detail of the things that people are wearing, and just what everyone's wearing is really cool, because it's half machine parts, half textiles and things they would have made from the bits where they live. So I just really like the style of the world in general. I think it's a really well thought out, well designed place to run around. And do
you think, Alex, with your sort of background as a historian, do you feel that that they've drawn on sort of
there's certain things, like one of the outfits I'm wearing at the moment has a lot of beads and things, and obviously that's very common for jewelry from lots of ancient civilizations. And just like, obviously it's all completely fictional tribes and futuristic and things, but it's things that you can see patterns with, and patterns that you notice from different cultures in the past, that you can see are reflected in the way that these tribes behave, and their mannerisms and customs, and the way that they choose to decorate themselves. I think is very reflective of the different characters of the tribes in particular. I don't know if you would have got there yet, but there's some people who, I think, I can't remember the exact name now, but they basically worship the sun because they're in the desert, and that's a very common thing to encounter, and particularly in Egyptian culture as well. When you think about the Aten and Akhenaten, the heretic pharaoh who moves the capital of Egypt into somewhere completely new and said, "Oh, we're going to ditch all our gods now, let's just worship the sun." And everyone was like, "Yeah, sure, okay." And then his son reverted everything back to normal. That was Tutankhamun was his son. But initially he was called Tutankhaten. Not a lot of people know that. But there's obviously, because it's such a governing force in all of our lives, the sun is a very key thing for a lot of cultures. So it was interesting to see that reflected in within that world, which is technically speaking, I think we all know this, it is the Earth, but it's several thousand years in our future.
It's just, but why? What happened to us? What happened? Why are there machine dinosaurs all over the place?
I know. This is the question. It's just so. I think the story itself is just so interesting. It's definitely gripped me more than the backstory of other gaming worlds, and I think there's a lot. Even though I'm a good chunk of the way through the first game, it feels like I'm just touching, sort of just breaking the surface, kind of a bit like Aloy herself. I feel like, because she doesn't know much about what's happened, neither do I, but I want to know more. And you're just getting all these little tasters and snippets, and you're like, what actually happened? I want to know. And hopefully either this game or the sequel will help explain that.
I've been having my buttons pressed about capitalism and climate change and socialism, and having them pressed and prodded as I explore these games. And I was just looking at me being a fucking moron. I hate the Telegraph. It's the worst. And I found I was just looking through the back catalogue of articles of one woman who wrote a particularly egregious one, and she written that capitalism is what will save us from climate change. Can you? And I think, how could anyone think that? And then I looked, and she's the chairperson of a free market think tank. So of course she thinks that capitalism is the best thing for fuck. And so that's I'm having to take a lot of deep breaths when I look at the story.
Yeah.
Another thing that I found.
Oh, sorry, Matt, go on.
I was going to say on the thing of you asked Alex about like how these kinds of cultures are being represented. I think I'm going to have to coin the term Christopher Nolan syndrome, where something can be incredibly groundbreaking in one way and then embarrassingly stunted and reductive. Backwards in another. Reductive, yes. Because you're right, there is this service level representation of it seems to be the like skin color is you have as wide a spectrum as there is, and it doesn't seem to matter, which is good, but it also leans a bit into the seeing things as colorblind, which is saying, oh, we're all the same. All that's the history.
I did
of all
notice
the races.
There was some sort of some Asian representation in terms of facial structure and things like that as well. I did notice that in some places I've been to. Sorry, just popping in there. Just remembered off the top of my head that there are characters in the world that do look sort of Asian. And that was another good thing to see. But I was going to add to that point, actually. I know it's not really a spoiler because we've probably seen it in the trailers for the second game, but the antagonist, quote unquote, of that game is a coloured woman who is a bit older as well. So I don't know what that says in terms of making her the antagonist compared to Aloy as the protagonist. But, I mean, on one hand, it's good because it's not a man, I suppose. But then also, is that bad? I don't know. Am I reading too much into it?
Well, one of the other pages that I came up when I did my search was a thread on Steam, and it was somebody saying that it's got a good story, but has anyone else noticed the heavy feminist agenda? And that they were saying that that the author says that you're immediately introduced to the Nora, a matriarchal society led by wise women that really values mothers and can't stop talking about them. Well, fathers are barely ever mentioned. And then he says, okay, I guess matriarchal societies do exist, and the Nora are seen as primitive by the local tribes, so we'll move past that. So obviously he feels that the fact that this matriarchal society is viewed as primitive kind of gives it a free pass and lets it off the hook. But it's interesting, isn't it, as to whether that was something that was even, that thought process was even gone into by the writers. You know, are they giving with one hand and taking away with the other, or did they just not even think that through? Is it more about, you know, they wanted her to come from this slightly primitive background because it works for the rest of the story? I mean, there's that you have to kind of give narrative space in these stories, but you also have to wonder whether, you know, when somebody says, I mean, I hadn't thought of it like that. I just thought, you know,
perhaps it's, I don't know. I mean, if you look at that take, I guess you could argue that they're trying to reflect attitudes of today's society within that world in saying that a matriarchal society is somehow primitive or lesser than one that isn't matriarchal. But then again, that might be just me jumping to conclusions.
But I also think if they, just because other people in the game consider them to be a primitive society doesn't mean they are. Yeah. And actually, I did notice that in like very early on, when they come into contact with, when she comes into contact with this person from the Sun people, she says something about, you know, like, couldn't a woman be the Sun king or whoever, and he's like, oh no, we couldn't possibly have a woman doing that. So it felt like they were at least opening up that conversation very early on in the game. So I feel like they have, even if they've not got it all right, or even if they've got it right, I feel like they thought about it.
They're definitely opening up that conversation and saying, here are some attitudes, how do you feel about them, that kind of thing. Because there's a lot of options when you have conversations with people. You can choose how to respond, which I think is a cool thing as well. So you, the player, are then presented with these attitudes and how you respond. It does make you think about how you would respond, because you've got the time to have a look at the options and say, well, would I say that in this situation, or would I say the other thing? Which is good, because in that way it's making you think. And it's like, Matt, I think you touched on the writing in the game is superb, and I think a lot of the time it does force you to think about situations you may not have confronted before, or emotions you might not have dealt with, or people you might not have even had any opportunity to meet.
Sorry, that's me.
It's all right.
Oh, hold on.
No worries. You're good. Oh. We've talked amongst ourselves, shall we?
We hope you enjoyed that episode of Gaming the System. If you want to support us, you can donate to us through our PayPal by sending it to wearegamingthesystem@gmail.com if you want to send us a one-off donation. If you want to donate to us monthly, you can subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/gamingthesystem. Until next time, bye-bye.